Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Get Construction Talking. My name's Liam. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at the B1M, and I just wanted to say a big thank you for your attendance tonight. It's truly awesome to have so many of you here celebrating such a fantastic cause. Now, before we get started, I just need to cover a few housekeeping matters. If there is an emergency tonight, the fire exits are located at the rear left and the rear right. Also, we are filming tonight, so please be mindful of the cameras. And lastly, if you are uploading to social media, we ask you to use the hashtag GetConstructionTalking so we can really amplify the campaign to everyone. Now, shortly we'll begin the program. We'll be screening 2 mental health documentaries. This will be followed by a panel discussion and Q&A with the audience. After that, we'll make our way back to the bar for more networking and drinks. But before that, I'd like to invite our host for this evening onto the stage. Please join me in a big warm welcome for Fred Mills.
Hello, London.
Hi, Fred.
I'm about to share my mental health journey on a big stage. Give me something. Yeah. How are we doing? Nice. I need that. I need you guys to turn up for me tonight. Much appreciated. It's amazing looking out of these faces because the amazing people in this room, you guys shape our world. You know, you work in an amazing industry that touches the lives of almost every person on this planet. The problem we've got is that most people in our world don't really see that. Most people walking by on the street tonight don't recognise the impact of this industry or take it for granted. That's why I founded the B1M in my spare room all those years ago, to try and get the world to see this amazing industry as I see it, to lift up its amazing people and get the rest of the world to see you guys as I see you. I founded the B1M because I love construction and I want the whole world to love it too. This is a really proud moment for me because as I stand here tonight, that little idea I had in my spare room has grown into the world's largest and most subscribed to video platform for construction, with over 3 million subscribers across its YouTube channels and 24 million people watching each month. Cheers. You're warmed up now, I like it. We're conversing, this is good. We employ 17 people across 3 continents. I've filmed inside Big Ben, inside nuclear fusion reactors, down freezing Finnish mines. I've interviewed Richard Branson. We've launched a whole new channel about the future of construction and how the industry can play a role in tackling climate change. We've been named by The Times as one of the 20 best educational channels in the world. We've racked up 500 million video views on the internet. It's amazing stuff. It's mind-blowing stuff. But it's not the full story. And behind the scenes over recent years, I've really struggled with my mental health. Me, that guy I just described, who on paper has everything, has the world at his feet, you'd never suspect had anything wrong with him. And in my darkest moments, I came to realize that this can affect anybody. It's not a conscious choice, it's a sickness. Get Construction Talking is about using the power of what I've built with the B1M to try and do something about this issue in construction, do something about this issue in the industry that I love. I'm not saying I can solve it. Of course I can't solve it. But what I am pretty good at is reaching people. In construction, no one knows you better than the people you work with every day, your workmates on site, the people you go from project to project with. They're always going to know you better and more deeply than any mental health ambassador or health and safety officer or a charity in the sector. If we can get those people more aware of mental health, if we can get them more attuned to the signs that something might not be right, if we can enable them just to ask that simple question of, are you okay, mate? You don't seem yourself lately, something seems up. That basic question, start that basic conversation. And if we can enable them to direct people to support if they need it from the fantastic charities and others in this sector, then we can enable millions of people around the planet to help us tackle this issue, to help us tackle this crisis in construction. We can break the stigma. We can stop people dying from this issue. That is what Get Construction Talking is all about, and I'm incredibly grateful to Procore and particularly Tooey for backing my vision on this and for enabling us to bring it into fruition, to bring it to life at an event like this. We're using the power and reach of what we've built with our video, podcast, and events platforms, and teaming it up with the global reach and influence of Procore to raise awareness, to break the stigma, to get people talking, and to lift up the fantastic charities already working in this space and raise $1 million for them in the process. This matters to me. I know what it's like to struggle with your mental health. And I'm blown away by the number of people that have turned up here tonight, by the reaction this has had, by the messages I've been getting. It's phenomenal. But at the end of the day, if all of this just amounts to it helping one person, one person who might not be here tonight, but is at home, maybe watching or listening to this, who's in that place, who's struggling, if we can help that person feel better and turn a corner, then it will all have been worth it. We need more of construction's leaders to stand up on platforms like this and talk about this issue. We need more leaders to normalise this conversation. We cannot be the industry that ranks top for suicide in the United Kingdom and many other countries around the world. We just can't be top of that chart, guys. We need to attract the best talent. We need that because we're trying to build in a more sustainable way. We're trying to help our industry make a difference on climate change. We're trying to build more affordable housing. We're trying to build infrastructure. We're trying to grow economies. It matters. Our people matter. This industry is critical. And we just can't let this issue exist anymore. Enough is enough, and we need to turn the tide and make a difference. In the spirit of getting more leaders on stage to talk about this and normalise the issue, I now want to introduce you to the founding CEO of Procore, Tooey Courtemanche. He's flown over from California, been to a few other countries along the way, I should say, but he's here. Ladies and gents, big hand for Tooey.
Thanks so much, Fred. Appreciate it. I think we should all give Fred a big hand because this is such an important cause and he is making such a huge impact. So really, I have to say I'm deeply humbled and honored that I actually was asked by Fred to help participate in this extremely important and vital cause for the industry. I've been in this industry since I was a very young child. I actually joined the construction industry when I was 12 years old, believe it or not. I got to go work in a cabinet shop after school, sweeping up the cabinet shop after the guys were done working. And I learned, starting at that age, that I truly loved construction. But what I also learned was, I learned about the people of construction, and I learned about how caring and giving the industry was. And one of the ways I learned it was really interesting was, it was a union shop where I worked. And at 10 a.m. every day, like clockwork, everyone would turn off the table saws, they would sit down and they'd turn over paint buckets, they'd pull up tool benches, everyone would sit down and they would talk to each other about their lives and about their challenges and about their successes, and it was just a group of folks that were there for each other. And so that really solidified my passion. I love construction, and I was just passionate about the people. And that's frankly why I started Procore. And so for the last 20 years, Procore's been out on this journey trying to solve the most challenging, or some of the most challenging issues in construction by connecting everybody on a technology platform. But what really gets us out of bed every day is our vision. And our vision is to improve the lives of everyone in construction. And that is what motivates us, and that's what we work towards every single day. And when we're successful in that vision, and we actually achieve getting people connected, we actually make people more productive. We're able to help send people home safely from a job site. We're able to help people not have to go through doing rework, tearing out perfectly good things and starting over again. And we really contribute to the well-being of the folks. But what really gets me fired up is not about the productivity and everything else. But what really gets me fired up is when I hear our customers say to me, Tooey, I'm able to leave the job site early so I can get home and see my kid's sporting event because I'm not struggling with the technology that we had before. Or I can get home and I can be with my family and have dinner and not sit in the job site trailer until all hours of the night trying to get things done because I don't have the technology. But when Fred came to me and started talking to me about the challenges that the industry faces around mental health, I realized that there was a glaringly obvious challenge ahead of us, which is if Procore is going to be successful in our vision to improve the lives of everyone in construction, we needed to lean in, both with our megaphone and our reach, but also with our pocketbook, to help make an impact on this very vital challenge, which is the mental health crisis in construction. And so I'm deeply honored and humbled that we are able to participate in this. So what I know hopefully you all are all here for the same reason I am, is I'm curious and I'm concerned about the industry, and I want to know what I can do to help. The biggest challenge we have around this topic is both building awareness as well as reducing the stigma associated with this topic, which we all know is out there. And it's really one of those things that you ask yourselves, possibly, the question I ask myself, which is, I'm just one person. What can I do to make a difference on this really important matter? And the answer is simple. Fred said it in the video. Just start the conversation. Get construction talking. It's something that we all can do. There's no barrier to entry, as he said. And really, it is powerful. And I know that for a fact because I saw it firsthand. Last year, Fred came to our annual user conference called Groundbreak. And in a very courageous act in front of thousands of participants in a room much larger than this, Fred talked about his struggles with mental health. And he was being very vulnerable. And I know, because I've talked to him about it, it was a very scary moment for him. But the reality was that he actually got the conversation started across thousands of people. And that's had a reverberation effect ever since Groundbreak across so many different organizations. And so again, I'm eternally grateful for all the work that Fred is doing on this cause. So now we are a member of the Get Construction Talking team. We have some objectives. Number one is obviously start the conversation. Number two is we want to get the message out globally. And number three is we want to make readily available assets for the skills and the tools needed that are available to the folks that you work with, the folks that you are teammates with, yourselves if you need them. And we feel as if we have the megaphone to do that. I think the global brand of Procore, the global brand of the B1M with us together combined is a opportunity to really get this conversation started globally. But it's just the very first step. So I would encourage all of you to get involved in the conversation, start the conversations, do what you can do, take responsibility that this is a challenge that we all face. And I think with that, let's roll. Fred, do you want to come out?
Thank you. Thanks. This wouldn't be possible without your support. So.
Well, it's partnership, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you guys for giving Tooey a bigger cheer than me. That hurt.
It just sounded that way.
It's been noted. It's been noted, guys.
That was me mostly. Clapping.
I've got a relationship with these now. We're having a conversation about cheering levels. At the end, big cheer, please. Guys, we're really excited for you to see this. I know the reason you've come here tonight is not to see me and Tooey just like falling over each other, but to actually watch this documentary series. So we're very pleased to unveil it. It's called Uncovering Construction's Biggest Killer. It's a two-part series. We're going to play it to you back to back now. Should we do it?
Let's do it. Let's roll.
Here it is.
I'm Fred Mills, and I'm showing my love for construction through the platform I built, the B1M. There is nothing else on earth that compares to this amazing industry. It quite literally shapes our world. And if you need any proof of that, look no further than New York City. Manhattan Island behind me used to be a small, swampy strip of land, but that didn't stop contractors, architects and engineers through their skills, ability and sheer ambitions from turning it into one of the tallest and most densely built places on earth and the financial capital of America. But as amazing as this industry is, there's a part of it that desperately needs to change. You see, construction isn't very good at talking about itself. Now, looking at all this, you could say it doesn't need to be, but there's so much more to these buildings than what you see from the outside. The people working in this industry are shaping our lives. They're making decisions about our homes, our hospitals, our schools, the transport infrastructure we all rely on every day. Our world simply wouldn't work without this industry, but most of us don't see that or take it for granted. The other thing we don't really see is that construction has some of the worst mental health rates of any industry. There are a number of reasons for that, which we're going to come on to, but here in the US, a construction worker is 5 times more likely to die by suicide than from all the other causes combined. Tackling this silent pandemic isn't easy, but one of the most basic things we need to be doing is just talking to each other more. We need to break down the stigma and the culture that the industry has of putting a brave face on everything and staying strong the whole time. I want to use the power of what we've built with the B1M to raise awareness of this issue and get construction talking. And over the course of these videos and the wider campaign we're running, I hope to do exactly that. If you're suffering with your mental health, then you probably feel like the world is falling in, probably feels really lonely, and you probably feel like you're out of options for what to do next. But don't worry, it does get better and there is support out there. And I know that because I've been there myself. So we've now come a very long way from the glamour of Manhattan. We're in a place called B1M in South London. And this hospital here is the first building I ever worked on. I worked on this during my year out from uni, and I know it's not an architectural marvel, I see that. But this place is pretty special to me. It's so nice seeing it open. So I was based here for a year altogether. I remember being thrown in the deep end, thinking the deep end was a lot deeper than I thought it was going to be. I was doing a year out from uni, but I had huge responsibility. Well, it felt like huge responsibility at the time. I was looking after a very exciting dry lining package. That front cantilever out there, I was so proud of that. I spent so much time on that. This building, this construction site, was a huge part of my journey of falling in love with this industry. And it may not be a mega project, it might not be a skyscraper or an amazing dam or anything like that, but it's buildings like this that most of the industry works on. I remember thinking how misunderstood the industry was, and that's why I started the B1M. I started putting videos online in my spare time to try and get the world to see the industry the way I saw it. Back then I didn't really think about mental health or realise how much it could affect me. I guess that's all changed pretty dramatically as I got older. I used to think I was just having bad days, but I've now realised that I'm kind of predisposed to depression. Just saying that's pretty difficult. So for me, like, a few factors brought it on. The job I do, there's an always-on pressure to it. There's a constant desire for perfectionism. And we've had an amazing journey with the B1M. You know, there's been some amazing things happen, but it almost sets a bar for what you do next, and that puts a natural pressure on yourself because everything's so visible and so out there. That adds pressure. When you're running a business with it, I've got people's salaries, livelihoods, bills to look out for. I'm raising a family, so there's natural pressure there that means taking a step back or taking a break is quite difficult. So you can feel quite hemmed in by life in that regard. Other thing I've been dealing with, like many people around the world, is back pain, which really robbed me of my ability to do as much of my health and fitness as I wanted to. And for me, health and fitness, exercise was a huge part, I now realise, of managing stress, managing my mental health, managing and keeping a lid on my depression to a point. I remember seeing the stats about suicide, and I remember thinking, it was guys in their 30s was the main demographic. And I remember thinking, how shocking that was and how terrible that was, but thinking it was a different thing. You know, it wouldn't affect me because I'm a normal person. It was people who were in a bad way. And then I got to that place in my mid-30s where I could see the path to it, and I was kind of staring down the barrel of it at times. And that was hard. I realised then how it can affect anybody. And so I've never really talked about, but it was only really my family and specifically the thought of my kids that stopped me doing something stupid. I remember it's such a lonely experience. I can remember travelling home after another ridiculously long day's work and feeling so kind of lonely and isolated and just wanting to get home and hug my wife so she could protect me. And it's not easy for me to talk about it. I remember not wanting to talk about it. Since that moment, those few dark moments I had that scared the life out of me, I've really tried to deal with it. And talking to friends and family, seeking counselling has been a big, big help. I used to worry about it. I used to think that it was a sign of weakness, but now I realise it's something I've been through, something I've dealt with, and it's made me so much stronger and more formidable from it. And there are so many people out there where you just don't see the full picture. People saying that we shouldn't talk about the suicide issue in construction because it might put people off joining the industry. I disagree with that. We need to get it out in the open, we need to deal with it, and we need to show the world that we are a compassionate, welcoming, caring industry that values both physical and mental health. And if we do that, we'll attract the best talent, we'll improve what we do, and we can go on shaping the world even better than we have before.
I've come to London's Canary Wharf to meet Logan Price. He's part of the next generation of construction talents that's shaping our world.
So this is it, this is your site?
This is the one. So
Which one are you responsible for? This building?
this one on the left-hand side.
Logan's struggled with his mental health, but by confronting his problems and seeking help, he's emerging stronger than ever.
Whenever I go round anywhere, it seems, my dad will go, "See that? I built that. Yeah. I built that."
That's a nice, yeah. What's the best thing about your job?
Seeing the project progress. When I first came to the site here, there was nothing, there were just piles. And then we cropped them, we've done the basement, and to see it up at level 10, and it will be level 50, will be amazing.
Also, I know you've been on a bit of a mental health journey. When did you realise you had to do something about your mental health?
So I'd been in the industry for about 2 years before I noticed that I was kind of suffering. I ended up speaking to my parents and then to a GP and getting prescribed antidepressants, which helped to an extent but didn't get rid of the problem.
What were the kind of triggers for you? What kind of brought it on, do you think?
I think the overall balance of my life was probably wrong. I was doing far too much travelling. I was averaging about 1,000 miles of driving a week, which is obscene even when I look at it now.
But actually that kind of travel is pretty normal in this industry.
Yeah, there's lots of people, it's kind of a running joke and a game on site of who's here the earliest, who leaves the latest. My dad's always done that sort of mileage, and was brought up with me. I thought that was normal. And not enough people higher up in construction in the construction industry, I'd say, like directors, are aware of the challenges because they're of a certain age that have kind of just potentially powered through, and that kind of mindset.
The environment that we work in, and many people in the industry work in, is high pressure, long hours, high stakes, There's a stigma about not talking about your feelings. It's quite macho, it's quite male dominated. Well, it's almost entirely male dominated still. And that's almost like the perfect ingredients list for bad mental health. There's almost no surprise in a way that the industry has the mental health statistics that it has, isn't it, sadly?
But I don't think that makes the construction industry a bad industry either. It's just elements within it that need changing and need more awareness raised towards.
What was it like talking to someone about it for the first time?
I think that's the hardest bit, when you first open up and speak to somebody, especially when you're feeling like that in the moment.
For someone that's feeling that way right now, that feels like they don't want to talk about it because they'd be seen as weaker because of it, what would you say to them?
I think talking about your mental health when you're in the midst of struggling is one of the strongest things you can do. And it's something that takes immense courage to do in that moment.
So you've climbed Mont Blanc.
Yeah. So when I had a period off of work, I set myself a challenge for my physical well-being. So I wanted to climb Mont Blanc, and alongside that I thought it's a good opportunity to be able to raise some money for charity. I raised in total £27,000 for them combined.
That is incredible.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Speaking to Logan is always an inspiring experience, and it shows what can be achieved when the industry starts talking about mental health. I'm going to try and explain my way of thinking about mental health using a building analogy and some good old Lego. Now, I can hear the medical professionals and the psychologists gasping from here, and don't worry, I understand that you can't boil all this stuff down to some simple plastic bricks. But sometimes keeping things simple is actually pretty helpful. First up, I want you to imagine that your mind is a building. Obviously something cool, like a skyscraper. You are that structure and the spaces within it. And it's important because it's your life. People love you, they need you, they depend on you. You can't really function properly if it's not working right. Now, that structure needs to be maintained. There's going to be stuff thrown at it, unexpected forces are going to creep in, and no structure is invincible. It cannot just go on forever. That means continuously investing to keep it running. Now, some people are really good at this and go through their whole lives subconsciously doing it without ever really noticing that anything's wrong. But for most of us, when something does go wrong, the first port of call is usually some DIY, taking steps ourselves to try and right things. But sometimes you can't solve things on your own and you need some help, either from a friend or even a professional. I've arranged a call with Chris from Mates in Construction, a charity working across Australia and New Zealand. They've got over a decade of experience in how to take that first step and talk to someone.
The reality is that Australia is not different to a lot of the world, where construction really does, the pressures that flow through in the construction industry really do have an impact on the people. One of the ways they show through is that we've got significantly higher rates of suicide in the construction industry. So it's a real problem and something we've got to do something about.
What effect do you think that has on the industry? And there's this really serious issue that seems to be, there isn't really much awareness about it, but what kind of impact is that having, do you think, on the sector and the people in it?
I think this is something that's often missed. The fact that the people that actually work in the industry, nearly everyone knows someone in the industry who's died by suicide.
And in terms of things that we as individuals can start doing today for free without training, it's as simple as looking for the signs and asking your mates if they're okay.
And doing the best thing that you can then do thereafter is actually be there for them. Be real, be authentic, listen, don't be judgmental, but realize that they are telling you a story for a reason if you actually do ask that question. And then inviting them to see if you can actually connect them to whatever help they need. And not everyone would need to see a psychologist or a counselling service. It might be as simple as needing to actually get the finances sorted, a financial counsellor or a relationship piece. Or it might even be needing to speak to your religious leader in their community if that's actually what's going to work for them. Understanding that everyone's different. So being present with them where they are, keeping them safe and connecting them to the help that they might actually need. None of us end up having to be the end result, the end counsellor, but we can all step forward and make a difference.
Asking for help if you work in construction can be tough because of that culture that I spoke about, but it really matters. We need to feel able to talk to people if we're struggling and not feel embarrassed or ashamed by it. We also need to be more alive to the signs that people can display when something's not right and not be afraid to ask them if they're doing okay. We need to get construction talking. Talking is something we can all start doing today for free. There are no barriers to entry here, and it could really make a big difference. Remember that we all need to maintain those buildings that we are, and sometimes if the DIY doesn't work, then it makes a lot of sense to ask for help. We're raising awareness of this issue through our Get Construction Talking initiative supported by Procore. You can get more information and links to support through our portal, podcast and events. We're also raising money for established construction mental health charities and would love a donation of any kind. Please, please share this video with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to watch part 2.
I'm Fred Mills and I love construction. As a journalist, I've spent years looking into every corner of this amazing industry. I've explored inside nuclear fusion reactors, famous landmarks, iconic skyscrapers, and chatted to billionaire innovators, all in my quest to lift up and showcase how amazing this industry is and highlight how it shapes our world. But while we're surrounded by proof of what construction can do, I'm now on a mission to get it to achieve something very different.
I'm taking you up here to show you something really cool. Wow, look at that view. If you want an example of how amazing construction is, just walk up to Greenwich Park in London. See so much of this city, it's incredible. Over there is Shard, tallest building in the UK. City of London, 22 Bishopsgate, which is the second tallest building in the UK. And then Canary Wharf in the background, which has just exploded over recent years. 30 years ago, that was just one tower that had just gone up, one Canada Square. It's just so much in one view, so much of this city's development, so much history, and so much of what this industry is capable of, you know, from infrastructure to civic centres, skyscrapers, heritage. It's all here in front of you. Bring your kids up to Greenwich Park, honestly, it's awesome. But as amazing as this industry is, there's a crisis going on amongst its people. You know, here in the UK, on average, 2 people take their own lives in construction every day. I mean, that is it's a shocking statistic, one that I didn't really know about, and one that I've still struggled to get my head around. But it doesn't have to be like that. You know, it's very simple, I think, for us to take the first step. We're not talking about making sure everyone goes on a mental health first aid course or asks each other how they're doing all the time, because it doesn't come naturally, especially to guys. It's not about another initiative or another marketing thing around mental health. It's about taking basic steps at grassroots among the industry. If we can do that, if we can help our people do better in the industry, that changes everything. It enables us to attract the best talent. It enables us to appear compassionate and welcoming. It shows that we're a sector that cares about physical safety as well as mental safety. It puts the two on a par. And our people, this industry runs on its people. Our people will be better enabled to tackle all those things like climate change, supply chain issues, material innovation, all that stuff. We can do this, we can make it happen. We just need to take that first step.
I'm meeting up again with Chris, who I spoke to in the last episode. I want to hear from him what it is about the structure of the construction industry that causes people trouble and what the industry can do to improve.
What is it, to your mind, what are the ingredients that are making construction so predisposed to this issue?
Well, one of the things that we've got clear published evidence on is that those people working in roles where they've got lower control in their roles, you're at an even higher risk of dying by suicide. The practical implications of working in the industry in Australia, and I imagine this is similar in other countries as well too, there can be very long working hours. And that can lead to direct hardships in terms of maintaining the social connections, those connections that actually do normally keep us safe. We also know, I often use the analogy of a city skyline. If you think of a building and no building, building, no building, that's almost like you've got periods of work, no work, work, no work, periods of money coming in and then not. Can lead to real trouble in terms of how you manage your household finances. And we know that these are some of the very basic things that are prevalent in the industry and then can impact people in terms of their mental well-being and sadly suicide. So Mates was set up back in about 14 years ago. We started, it was an idea that came from people in the industry. There's too many deaths by suicide. There's something going wrong here. And at that point, they got Griffith University in Australia to do a piece of research. What that actually showed was that of the workers that were dying by suicide in the industry, 93% of them hadn't connected to formal services, to the help that's available to doctors, to counsellors. And we realised that that was the opportunity to make a real difference. I'm pleased to say that we do research with the University of Melbourne, and the really good thing that's actually shown is that the rates of suicide across the construction industry are coming down. So we know we're on the right track. We know we're having real impacts across the industry, but we also know there's more work to do.
What are you most hopeful for? What are you most optimistic about where this issue is heading?
The thing that I'm most optimistic about is the fact that workers keep stepping forward to take on the program. Volunteers on site that are actually going to help people get the help they need when they need it. So those construction workers that are looking after their mates at work, they also belong to footy clubs or other sporting clubs or churches. I reckon the thing that I love most about this industry is that most people don't realise it is one big community. Even though it's a massive industry, the way everyone actually does know so many people, and they care about the people they work with. They care about their mates. And that's one of the things that I think is really special about construction. And people miss that it is actually a genuine community of people who enjoy working together. They enjoy their work and they enjoy working together.
Speaking to Chris has made me realise there are small steps the industry can take to have a huge impact. And if we all take the time to look out for our friends and colleagues, then change will come. Now, just in case you're thinking, well, all this is a nice idea, but it'll never catch on, let's take a little trip down memory lane. Only a few decades ago, construction sites looked like this. Compared to today, PPE was non-existent, and the term health and safety was almost unheard of. That's unthinkable today, but only thanks to years of campaigning. In the UK in 1981, there were 7.9 fatal injuries per 100,000 construction workers, 4 times the national average. Today, it's 1.6. It's still one of the worst performing industries, and that number is of course far too high. But it just goes to show how far we've come. If we can do this to improve our physical safety, then there's no reason why we can't do the same for our mental well-being too. I've come to meet Steve. He saw the need for those social connections that Chris talked about and started Construction Sport, a charity which helps create bonding opportunities for people in the industry and gives them a chance to have some fun.
So, Steve, what is Construction Sport?
Construction Sport is pretty much we're charity based now in the UK. It's all about giving construction workers the opportunity to enjoy themselves, really, let their hair down for the benefits of mental health, but physical health obviously benefits with it as well.
And the idea is you're bringing people together outside of normal jobs.
Yeah, that's it. So what we've realised I'm a ground worker at heart, but We just want an opportunity to enjoy ourselves, and if you can get people away from that day-to-day on the tools or in the office, whatever you're doing, and then an environment where people can just let their guard down a bit, you create the opportunity for people and enjoy it, and sport is scientifically proven to benefit people in that way. We just need opportunity. The military do it, fire brigade do it, the police service do it, ambulance service, the banking sector, all have organisations that oversee sport, and we're bigger than all of them, and we don't.
Getting people off construction sites into a different environment.
Yeah.
What reaction do you see to that? How do you see people change?
It's just a bit of freedom from the world. It's just that whole, we all done it as kids, a lot of us running around with it full time in the playgrounds. You just literally vent and your aggression and everything you've got, put it into the playground. But now, that playground doesn't, unless you create it for yourself, it's not there. And that's what I see with a lot of sports and hobbies in general. I say sport is what does it for us, but if you're into knitting, if you're into like anything, tiddlywinks, you know what I mean? If it's a hobby or an interest, you keep it up and you realise, I'm not actually on my own here, are you? And that whole kind of problem shared, problem halved sort of thing, it goes out and people realise, cool, I'm not the only one actually.
Yeah. Got stressed up. Oh, like that.
So there's one guy that we done it, the one that probably always sticks to me, didn't see it coming really, but I was training in the gym one morning and then the lad who worked in the gym, who I know through the rugby world, he said to me, I said to him, can you play in a few weeks' time? We're playing. And I said, we need a prop, we need a big lump. And he's that man. And he said, cool, Steve. He said, whenever that fixture is, just let me know I'm there for you. And I just realised, I thought to myself, straight away, I was like, happy days. And he said, you don't realise what you've done for me in the last match. And I was like, mate, brilliant. I didn't ask him. And he said, do you remember when you sent me that message to play 2 years prior to that? I said, yeah. He said, well, I was about to do something very silly. His phone literally bleeped. He looked at it and went, the boys need me the weekend. I don't want to let them down. It snapped him out of this dark place he was in at the time. And that's what I think as men, having that escapism from the world by going and doing some sport helps massively.
Someone that's feeling like they're struggling with their mental health at the minute in construction, someone that's in that place, and we've all been there. What would your advice be? What would you say to them?
Probably along the lines of, like, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Don't go making any silly mistakes or these decisions that can't be reversed. You feel like it's the end of the world, and it really isn't. It's like you're still here, you're enjoying yourself, everything can be repaired.
Yeah.
Talk to people closest to you, get on a support line.
But that's the serious undertone, isn't it? What we're saying is we're not asking everyone to become mental health experts or ask everyone how you're feeling all the time, but that question of, are you right, mate? It's as simple as, are you okay today, mate? You don't seem yourself. And it's a positive thing, isn't it? Like we're saying, we don't want everyone just to go out and start talking about, ask each other all how they're feeling in a very kind of forced way. Yeah. It's people dying all the time in construction because of this issue. Yeah. It's a shocking issue. Just kind of normalising the conversations a bit is a positive thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
You've covered this from 2016 now. You've watched construction mental health for a few years. What do you feel most positive about now when you look at this? Because there's a lot of negatives, but what are you optimistic about?
The people all day long, especially the people on the ground pushing it in the offices. It's not just site staff, but everyone. The industry is made up with some incredible people, and people give it hope. And I think I've heard it before. So if you've got hope, if everything fails, but you've got a little bit of hope, I really think it'll repair itself.
Steve's optimism and positivity really give me hope. The camaraderie you get from playing with a team helps so many people let off steam and get a sense of perspective. It goes to show that managing your mental health doesn't need to be daunting.
Anyone who knows me knows how much I love this industry. It's my passion. I just can't get enough of it. And I'm incredibly lucky that I get to tell this industry's story. I get to travel the world and see so many of its amazing projects, hear so many of its amazing tales, and meet so many of its amazing people. The story of its mental health is one that I found really hard to tell. It's hit really close to home for me.
Making these films has really revealed to me the scale of the mental health problem in the construction industry. The statistics are shocking, but through the people I've met, it's clear that attitudes are starting to change, and that by having conversations like these, we are making a difference. It goes to show the power of what can be achieved if we get construction talking.
We're raising awareness of this issue through our Get Construction Talking initiative supported by Procore. You can get more information and links to support through our portal, podcasts and free events. We're also raising money for established construction mental health charities, helping lift them up, support them and enable them to do more to solve this problem. And we'd love a donation of any kind. It would be really, really appreciated. The most helpful thing you could do would be to start talking, to share this video series with your friends and colleagues to help raise awareness of this issue and help us take the first step.
Very, very powerful. You all enjoyed it, I guess? Let's do it. I'll tell you, I think that this is going to be make a difference. All of these videos are available now online, and I'm sure they'll be easily accessible to all of you. So please do share them with your friends, your loved ones, your colleagues. They hopefully will make a big difference. And so with that, let me invite the panelists up on stage. Yoande and Logan and Fred, do you want to come out? All right. You all ready? So Fred, I'm going to start with you. You've spoken very openly here and at Groundbreak about the challenges that you've had with mental health. I guess the real question probably all of us are asking is, how are you doing now, and what tools are you using to help?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm conscious now that everyone in this room knows me a lot more than they did before. probably too much, to be quite honest. It'd be really inspiring for me to sit here and say that I've turned it all around and I'm doing much better, and here are the top 3 things you can do to fix your life and live a great life. But as many of you know, it doesn't really work like that. It's a journey, and it's a journey that I'm on every day, and I have good days and bad days still. I'm very good at hiding it behind the scenes, but I've got a lot better. I have to say, from going through a lot of the journey that I've been through, I am feeling a lot better. I know the things that make me happy and the things that bring me down. I'm focusing on the good stuff and the bad stuff.
That's awesome.
I've got a different perspective on life now, so yeah, it's good.
It's good to hear. It's very good to hear. I learned about your challenges at Groundbreak, and I'm curious what inspired you, what gave you the confidence, and what was the journey like to get there to make that proclamation?
Yeah, it's a good question. It was a crazy thing to do.
It's a brave thing to do.
Yeah, well, I've never talked about it to anyone, and then to do it on that platform in front of, I think it's like 4,000 people, something stupid, 4,500 people was pretty intimidating. But I think for me, I struggled through 21, but really through 22, and the second half of 22 for me was really tough. And it's almost like I was living these 2 completely different lives, and there was public treadmills where everyone was saying, "Oh, it's so great, you're so amazing, you must be so happy." And the stuff I was going through, and it was just that they were just 2 different things. And I was thinking, I didn't really want to fake it anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't want to just hide behind it anymore. I thought, actually, this is who I am. This is something I'm going through. I might not like it, but I'm going through it and I'm dealing with it, and loads of other people are too. So if I can take that first step and help normalise this, then hopefully it'll help other people feel that they can too. Mm-hmm. And it's terrifying because I kind of cultivated this perception of perfection. Mm-hmm. And so to come out and say, hey, I'm not a full ticket, I've got some things going on, was tough, but I know that it makes me a stronger and more formidable person, having recognised it, say to everyone I'm dealing with it, I'm getting better from it. I feel 1,000 times better having done it. So.
Was there a moment when you were finishing up or you were walking off stage where you felt some cathartic kind of cleanse, or like you got it out, or you felt supported?
Just numb, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got really good spontaneous crowd clapping and reaction, which I wasn't expecting, and that just
everyone
validated.
was really very supportive, right? So thank you for your bravery. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So then, So then you walk off stage and you go home and you have an idea about Get Construction Talking. How did that come about?
It's funny, I was sitting on the plane back,
Yeah.
and I don't sleep on planes, so I was like up all night. And I thought, I really want to do something about mental health. I really want to do something about mental health, sorry. I thought, well, how can I find the money for this? How can we do it on the side? How can I make sure it doesn't take away too much distraction from the core business? I want to do something, but I'll do it on the side. And I thought, well, screw that. What if I made it the thing that defines me? Mm-hmm. And I really try and own it and stand up and make a difference in this space. And it was a bold pitch to talk to you guys and say, hey, do you want to do this with us? Because no one's really done it before to this level in a kind of media campaign.
Sure.
So yeah, and now we're in a place where it's getting attention front and centre on the B1M, which is where it should be.
Yeah, no, thank you, appreciate it. So Logan, you've been very open with all of us and very vulnerable, which again was very brave of you, and we appreciate that. What advice would you give to others that are possibly in the same situation you found yourself in?
I think when you're feeling in that place, it's really difficult to speak, but if you can encourage other people to speak before they get to that place, it's easier to kind of have a conversation and to make that conversation easier at the time.
Yeah. That's good advice. Actually, I should open it up to both of you. Do you all have any advice for people that are in this situation? Yolanda, do you have any thoughts?
I would say that talking is a huge thing. I've been on the other end of a phone call when people have really needed to talk, and speaking to them after, and just hearing that they needed to really speak to somebody at that moment in time has just been so massive for me. And so now when my phone goes, I'm like, gosh, I need to get to that phone. So I'd say talk.
Sure.
It's 4 letters, but it's massive.
Yeah, very powerful. Well, the question I want to follow up with you is, I learned through this process how disproportional the construction industry is to this crisis, how it seems to really be affecting the construction industry. And the first question I was asking myself is, why is the construction industry so affected by this? Do you have any thoughts?
Yes, it's a great question actually, and there's so many things that we need to kind of work through. If you look at the history of the construction industry, it's been very cutthroat for so many years. Our profit margins are not great. In fact, they're terrible. And so so I've worked in construction, I'm an engineer, I understand the pressures are always there. And so there are all these things that kind of work against you in terms of trying to basically live a pressure-free life. And what we need to do in this transformational period that I like to think the construction industry is in is really start to unpack all of those inherent challenges to say, actually, the fact that this is the root cause means we need to completely rethink what the structure of our industry looks like.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we need to go. We need to go right to the roots.
Yeah. Well, Logan, you said very clearly that driving 1,000 miles a week or whatever, that's clearly stressful. That's clearly adds a lot to it. And trying to maintain relationships and everything outside of work. Do you have any ideas as to what you think might be the contributing factors?
Construction's a high pressure industry. Yeah. There's responsibility on everyone that's on every site, working on every project, of hundreds of thousands, millions of pounds, whatever the job is. But the long hours that people work as well are difficult, and then you could be 2 hours away from a job, whatever it is. You then can't do those things that are important for you to promote good mental health, going to the gym, exercising, whatever it is that helps you, is challenging. And the fact that it's male dominated and kind of that macho mentality where people just don't want to speak to each other.
Those are all hard challenges to overcome in the construction industry, so there's no easy answers. What do you think, Fred, the construction industry how would you rate them in their focus on getting something going in this regard for mental health?
I won't give it a number because you guys won't like the number I give it. But I think there are some fantastic people doing some fantastic work in this industry. There are people who have dedicated their lives and spent decades working on this, particularly among construction's mental health charities. I don't think what we've had though is scale and it given the megaphone and the top of the agenda placement that it needs. You know, this is not a little thing on the side, guys. This is not another thing to think about or deal with in your ESG pile. You know, if your people, I run a small business, it runs on people. If my people aren't right, not performing, I'm going to make less money. Yeah. It's not going to be successful. So investing in our people, making sure that they're not just physically safe but mentally safe as well, is critical. And I think we've got some people running charities doing a great job but need a lot more support and uplift. We need to put this top of the agenda. We need everyone recognising that it's key to your bottom line and as important as physical health and safety on sites. So yeah, I mean, can I give mine some numbers? I think we've got a long way to go.
Whatever you want. Yeah. Well, as you and I were talking about backstage, like you could go for a legislation, kind of agenda, which is let's mandate this. But I like the way you look at it from a business owner's perspective. Good culture and healthy people drive business value. And there's, that's an easy way to get businesses' attention, is to show that it does actually impact the bottom line. So that's super helpful. What do you think each and every one of us can do to help make a difference? Should we go to our bosses and raise this, and ask them what they're doing in this regard?
I think the clue is kind of in the big words behind me on the screen. We're trying to get construction talking, and I think there have been people, when we were putting this together, we really thought about this. What would really drive change? Because there's a lot of people that spend a lot of time trying to get money for a mental health initiative, or trying to have a mental health talk or an event, or get people talking about this. But it often gets, like I said just then, pushed to the side or treated as like an extra bonus thing you have. It's not the core issue. I think what we're really trying to do with this is get that grassroots movement out there, where everyone understands that we all have a role to play in this. Whether you're affected with your mental health or not, you are all responsible for looking for the signs, helping break the stigma, being more alive to the issues, and helping the industry really tackle this crisis head on. It's the responsibility of all of us, I think, to make that happen. And it's not about having to go upstairs and pitch for money, or for you need to go out your way and do something different. For me, it is about talking, asking that person that you work with every day, are you doing all right? And ask them twice, are you sure you're doing all right? Because you don't seem yourself lately. I know we're under a lot of pressure right now, are you doing okay? That matters. And that question coming from your best mate cuts through more than any HR manager or mental health ambassador. No offense, guys.
I love the ask twice, because the standard response to, hey Fred, how you doing, is everyone's always like, great.
Especially in the UK, we're like, yeah I'm good. No matter how bad it was for me, I was like, yeah, all right.
I like that. Ask the second time. Yewande, I heard in this video, and it's something that I find surprising, but the construction industry obviously is having a hard time finding skilled workers to get the jobs done. And some say, apparently, that maybe this is a topic that we should not be talking about because it may dissuade people from wanting to join our industry. What do you think about that?
So I think we should be talking about it, because you can't, so I love the fact that the clarity around this subject is, mental well-being is connected to culture. I think it really simplifies the message. And so when we go out, I spend a lot of time talking to young people, trying to encourage them to come into the industry. I tell them all the good parts, as you do. I share pictures of super high-rise buildings that I've designed in different parts of the world. I'm conscious of the 260,000 shortfall that the industry is experiencing, and so I'm out full on trying to get these people to consider engineering and construction. Now, the thing is, if they come into the industry, right, and it's not right, I would have failed in my ability to attract them. They would have been lied to pretty much. you know. And so we recognize that we need to fix it so it's right for them coming in. And that's why I'm here today, actually. You know, to be really part of that solution wherever, you know, I can. You can't build a beautiful facade and not fix the internal challenges. If people are looking from the outside and it all looks amazing, if the fact that on the inside it's dark and crumbling, then we are not doing what we think we're doing in terms of transformation.
Well, ultimately, people will leave the industry because it's so challenging. So you're right. Putting the Band-Aid on it's not going to work.
No.
We got to uncover those root causes and dig deeper. Do you have any thoughts on that notion that maybe this should not be a topic of discussion? I mean, I highly doubt that based on this.
I think it's I can't say the word. It's rubbish.
Have you actually ever heard anybody say that?
No, I mean, can we say that? I mean, there's kids in the room. It's the thing that comes out the back of a dog. I think it's...
By the way, I have no idea what that means. So I understand what it means, but is that like I've never heard somebody say that before.
If you haven't got it by now, I feel like...
No. I know what you said. is that like a British saying, or are you just saying that for the kids?
I'll tell you later. I think it's rubbish. I think it's total rubbish. Like, we can keep it quiet and trick people into the industry, but 2 people in the UK dying every day, that's shocking. That can't happen.
How many people here is that news to? Did that just learn that? Isn't that amazing? It's absolutely mind-blowing. You know, it's just, it should be something that we should be. If 2 people were dying a day, you know, through falls on job sites, somebody would be doing something about it. You know.
Absolutely.
All right. So. All right, well, let's do this. Let's talk about this is a great start to Get Construction Talking. Tell us about your hopes. What are your hopes for what this could be? And then if you think forward like a year from now, where do you want to get to?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think when you look at events like this, it's all very glossy and very exciting, and it's easy to think it's another kind of mental health pop, one of those things that's happening in the industry right now. But for me, I hope you see from those videos and from what I'm saying tonight, it's not about that. I genuinely care about moving the dial on this issue, and I hope that in a year's time we'll be having more conversations about it. I hope we'll have normalised conversations around it a lot more. I hope the stigma will be falling away. And not to put a particular number on it, but I hope we've raised $1 million for charity, which is behind me on screen right now.
Well, we will ensure that you do. So it's very important. And I can envision this happening in other countries and other venues, and possibly a breakout session.
Yeah, we're doing this already. I think in Chicago, there's talk of Australia. So
nice.
It's amazing, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me know how I can help. And for the rest of you, I think I know what the answer to this is, but what is the one single piece of advice you'd share with everyone here that they can do personally in order to help with this cause?
Just one?
Well, no, go.
Okay, all right, let's go on. So one thing that has kind of stayed with me is the idea of unlearning the construction industry way of existing. When I started off as an engineer many years ago, I just assumed that it was okay to be in a room where people would swear at you. I just thought, it's the construction industry. I just assumed that there'd be people who would be unfriendly, and it still haunts me till today that somebody who I thought was just unfriendly took their life. It still haunts me today. I could have gone to this person and had conversations with them. If I had not just put them into a construction industry unfriendly box.
Right.
So I would say we are at a point where we can start to really unlearn every aspect of the construction industry that is closed, that puts pressure on people, that is not open. And in the words of Get Construction Talking.
Yeah, I love it. Logan, do you have any
I've got two.
Okay.
One of them is talk,
Yep.
and the other one is to listen.
Boy, if everyone did that in life across all aspects of life,
Yeah.
listen is pretty important. That's awesome. Fred, you got any?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Logan said. I think the word talk, we've said it up here a lot, talk, just talk if you're feeling low. That is the hardest thing in the world, particularly when you're trying to put a front on and you're trying to be strong and you're worried about what people are going to think of you, if they're going to think less of you. It was the hardest thing I ever did, but it's a really old saying, but the problem shared is a problem halved, and just talking to people did make a difference for me. It did help turn the tide. So what I would say to people is if you're struggling, you're not alone, and take that first step would be the thing I say.
That's awesome. Well, now we actually want to turn this over to all of you. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free. And the microphones are coming down the side aisles here. So grab a mic or a mic. Oh, there we go. Okay, you want to start there?
Hi guys, thank you very much. It's been amazing and a privilege to be here tonight. I've worked in the construction industry for about 20 years now. Also worked in Samaritans for about the last 6 years. There's a lot of conversations, I would say from ground root apprenticeships to middle management about mental health, about well-being, about suicide in the industry. But we all know that culture and values really do stem from the very top. That's where I struggle, is to try and get leadership, very high level people, to understand the severity of what you've been talking about today. And I'm keen to try and explore ideas and develop ideas and try and reach those people. And that's where I feel, me personally, I'm hitting a barrier all the time. And I just, not particularly a question, but just understanding how you're managing to reach those people at the top, and how we can all be doing that and pushing that conversation.
Logan,
go on. I think that everyone sitting here today is either working in the construction industry or has an interest in it, and will be the people that are listening to that and will drive that conversation forward in their leadership roles that they will ultimately progress to. But the people who are working on construction sites, steel fixers, dry liners, whatever they are the people that need to be listened to the most, need to talk the most. It isn't as, maybe that's wrong to say, but it isn't as much about the higher management that should be talking, although they should be willing to support that. It's more about the actual workers that we've got on sites that need that encouragement.
I'd like to add, I think holding your leaders accountable. There's nothing more powerful than a directed question to a leader and having them having to answer what their stance is on this and what they're willing to do about it, I think is a great approach. And I also think uncovering look, you could motivate through fear or greed, right? I really think showing that having a good culture with healthy people drives business value is probably the best way to get a business owner to actually invest in this, I think.
Yeah, I was just going to add as well, I've gotten into trouble many times for calling like bad behavior out. And sometimes you just have to go to that extent. The other thing as well is anonymous surveys help as well. Like people would follow the data and the feedback. And if it's not just boiled down to some percentage that they present in a way that doesn't look so bad, if it's actual comments, feedback, getting them to read some of the things that people have expressed usually helps as well.
Just to say, I understand your frustration, because I come up against it myself, and I don't want to generalise, but sometimes the people in that demographic are of a certain age that is a stiff upper lip mentality. Yep. And I've had people say to me, "Oh, just keep going. Don't tell anyone that you don't feel great because you've got to put on a strong front." And or you're just tired, Fred, which was pretty frustrating. But I think we need to go grassroots up now. These people aren't going to listen unless you talk about the bottom line, which is incredibly frustrating. But it's how the world is. That's just how the world is. And I think really tackling this issue now from the grassroots up is going to make a difference. I think that's the fantastic advantage of having Procore involved is you talk to and reach CEOs around the world. They listen to you. They come to your conferences. They follow your lead. They use your software in hundreds of countries around the world. So having Procore back us up on this, I think will help elevate it up to that boardroom position. So yeah, you're right. It's tough. It sucks. But I think chipping away from grassroots up is the way to go now.
Wow, we got a lot of questions here.
Okay, shall I go? Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Hey, my name's Morgan. I'm from the Enable Group. So I've worked project level. I've worked as a formwork carpenter and then moved up to social value, which I work in now. So my question to you really is that it's so amazing that we're now seeing a lot more gender diversity within the industry. But I'm curious to hear whether you find there are the same issues within women that are working within construction and what you're doing. And if you need to do anything differently, I guess I'm trying to say, to combat that issue, or whether your approach is responding well for both genders.
You want to take it?
Yeah, it's a really important point. I think the reality is these issues, as I said at the start, can affect anybody, and there is a mental health crisis among women in the industry as well as men. The industry is male-dominated still, so this does disproportionately affect men. So we've kind of started in that place from the more of the male side. I also think men have again, this isn't universal to both genders or any gender. I'm not kind of trying to sort of stereotype here, but guys aren't so good at talking about our feelings and opening up. We're really rubbish at it. So I think trying to normalise that conversation amongst guys and get us opening up more is one of our first approaches. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd be interested in you, Andy's view on this. The issue does affect women as well. We're not saying it's a male-only issue. It disproportionately affects men in construction because it's male-dominated, I think.
Yes, you're right. And I'm like, gosh, where do we start from? Actually?
Yeah, that's like another 2 hours.
I mean, I know so many women who have left the construction industry because they had enough. They'd reached their limit, and they're like, you know what? I would rather, work somewhere else for like literally nothing than have to deal with this on a daily basis. And actually, from where I sit, there's so many other added issues and complexities, right? But it needs to be addressed as an industry challenge, I would say, to start with, right? Because we are in a phase where we are trying to get those building blocks in place, trying to get the foundation. It's still very much early days. And so those fundamental structural pieces, forget the construction speak here, need to be put in place to ensure that we are changing the culture. And once that foundation is there, once we have the momentum, without a doubt, there would be all the additional, what's the word I'm looking for? Peculiarities, is that the word? That then helps us delve into solving bigger challenges as well. But we need the foundation in place.
Awesome. Well, are we going upstairs? All right, upstairs we go.
Hi, I'm just somebody who's really interested in your channel rather than actually being in the industry. But I just also kind of wanted to ask, so you're talking about charities, and so this is a slightly arguably politically charged question, but I was just wondering what role could maybe trade unions have, because I heard no discussion of trade unions, but they certainly played a massive role in improving industry safety during the 1980s, so could there be a similar movement now?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Great idea.
Yeah, particularly in the US as well.
Yeah, we were just talking backstage about what other levers we can pull, and I think going to the trade associations is a genius idea, so thank you.
You're on the team.
Yep, you're hired.
Come down.
We don't pay very well, but.
This
All right,
chap's his hand up.
Yeah, you've been very patient.
Thank you. I've been named and shamed as being part of the problem because I'm Logan's dad. So. And now I'm embarrassing him even more. But look, this is more from an industry point of view. We've talked about, obviously, the challenge tonight, and it's absolutely fantastic. But I'm involved in the Social Mobility Pledge. And what that is getting organisations to sign up to support social mobility. And I guess this is one for you, Fred, really. I think you should ask construction companies to sign up and support Get Construction Talking. And not only that, I don't think it should be surreptitious where they sign up and say they will support. I think you should ask them for their action. There's a number of companies in the room tonight that would absolutely physically make a difference and a commitment to Get Construction Talking. And I think in signing a pledge, you should ask what they would do. And I think that would make a significant change to the challenge ahead.
Amen.
Wonderful.
Who planned that? Logan's like dying of embarrassment right now.
Now we know where Logan gets it. So this is
Great idea. Probably one more.
Oh yeah, let's do one more. Oh, we have a double hand waiver up top. Is that is?
Hi. I'm Rodolfo. I actually grew up on this world. Right? I'm a third generation general contractor, and I was going through, playing in the dirt of construction sites before health and safety was a thing in Mexico, as you can imagine. To then being civil engineer, working in an architecture firm, and now being an actual developer here in London. So one of the things, the biggest challenges that I see in places like London, the US, some of the East Coast, Australia, it's also the big diversity in cultures within the construction site, the difference of cultural backgrounds and languages, which makes it even harder, because even though everyone who is in the construction world knows that it's a tier game, right? Different trades are different tiers. That's just the way the human brain works. And then when you add different cultural backgrounds, it's even worse, because then you have the majority, the local majority, and then a different cultural minority, and it's horrible to actually work between them, and sometimes even impossible because of different languages. One thing that we have in Mexico, which is more localized, everyone speaks the same language, and not having so much support from being a developing country, you see that brotherhood being way harder than I can see it here in this country. And that, starting from the bottom up, it's there. We have many other issues in the construction world, but at least it's a tighter community. How can we start to tackle those language differences, those cultural backgrounds?
That's a great question, and actually that's a question that's come from somebody who really understands how different trades work on construction projects. I've worked in lots of different countries, and I've seen different responses to that. The one thing I was going to start off with, right, is really establishing the ethos and the ethics and the spirit of the project. It's a universal language when you tell people that you are all here to achieve the same thing, working together, and actually everybody needs to go home safely. Everybody needs to be physically well, and what we would like to see is that the mental bit is added as well to it. So that universal language of we're all in this together is hugely important. The next level to that is really understanding the cultures. And in some countries, I've seen managers and construction package managers team couples up. So there'd be a man and his wife working together on the construction project, because they know that for the man and the woman to both come back in good form the next day, they need to have that really tight connection, and they need to have that one person that they love looking over their shoulders for them. So it's really important that that level of commitment in terms of ensuring that the different groups are able to be the best versions of themselves. That's what I'll say.
I'd echo that as well. I mean, the culture thing is a really valid point. It's a big challenge in the industry. I think obviously I can only talk from my perspective, but I've been lucky to travel the world and see all kinds of different cultures, different people, different places. And what I've realised is that while cultures are different. Human beings are very similar worldwide, and we all feel human emotion the same way. It's why we all laugh at the same movies, why we all cry at the same movies, why we all sing along to the same songs. We all have that sort of same being within us. And I think the signs that someone's struggling with their mental health are obviously unique to all of us, but there are some very common signs that I think transcend the human race, quite frankly, whether you are in Iraq, Saudi Arabia, the USA, Canada, Hawaii. Hawaii is part of the USA, I know that. Australia, other places. Who have I left out? South Africa, Ireland. Ireland always complain, I'll leave them out. Ireland. But you know what I mean. That's what I'd say.
I got the subtle. Well, I want to first of all thank the panelists for being here. This is extremely informative. This is an extremely valuable set of information we've shared, and it's probably one of the most important topics in the construction industry right now. So I want to say thank you for that, and I know you want to say a few words as well.
Yeah. So briefly, I wanted like a big Oscars list of thank yous, but thank you to Yolanda Akinola, MBE, Logan Price, legend.
That was up to both of us.
Logan said to me, I don't really want to be like a role model for construction mental health. And I'm like, you already are. You're that person. Tooey for being the most down-to-earth, awesome guy ever and backing us on this. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Fred.
You can't clap every time because we'll never get through it. The Procore team, because you guys are awesome, you're killing it. You've flown in from all around the world. There's loads of you, but it's amazing. We love you. It's fantastic. Have your support and backing on this is incredible. Behind the scenes of this event, guys, and this initiative is an enormous team of people making it happen. So I want to say big thanks to the Procore team. The B1M team, I want to say big thank you to Ian and Aaron for sitting on a bench with me in a park and filming that, because it wasn't easy. Big thanks to our head of video, James, for organising all the tech, and our video team who are here tonight. Big thank you to Liam for coming all the way from Australia. Literally, I'm supported by an amazing group of people who make me look good, basically. So I want to say big thanks to them. But there is one person in particular, above all else, who has absolutely annihilated themselves over this event, thought about it for months, and worked harder than anyone else to make tonight and this initiative happen. I took her for a coffee in January and said, we're doing this, and her eyes just got whiter, and she was like, you want to do what? But it happened and it's here. So I've got a little something for Victoria Gunn, who's coming up to stage. Come on. Victoria is our senior project manager, joined us from the BBC last year, and I was at points worried because it's a mental health event and I'm really stressing her out, but yeah. You killed it. Thanks, mate.
How about just a huge round of applause for Fred for doing all of it. Thank you very, very much. I think the good news is that there's cocktails, which are out there, and the experts are going to be mingling for a little bit. Is that true?
We're also doing another event in October.
Oh, yes. That's right. No, yeah.
Well, we're doing Groundbreak in Chicago.
That's right.
Coming out for that, which is going to be awesome. We're doing a US launch there. We've also got an event in October around World Mental Health Day, because we want to keep the momentum going on this. And as always, getconstructiontalking.org. You can go donate, learn more, watch the video series. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Well, and also if you have great ideas like we've been hearing, keep the ideas coming. Like, there's a lot we can do. All right, you all, thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. Very nice.